Welcome to the FBEU second Facebook Live. Thank you all for joining us. We've got a very big sort of show for you tonight. Lots of stuff to catch up on and a couple of guests which I'll quickly introduce. Thank you for logging in. And jump into the comments if you can, say hello, share photos of where you're at if you're on shift and let us know that you're there. With me to my left is a face that you all should know. It's President Nick Mann.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
And further to my left is someone that unfortunately some of you may know. It's one of our workers' comp solicitors, Greg Marcellus from Marcellus & Co.
Hello.
Look, I'll give a quick wrap up of sort of where we've been at, I suppose, since the last time that we went Facebook Live. There's been a whole bunch of things go on, as you would be aware. Starting from the top and in no order of importance, but we've got obviously our recall case issue at the moment. That's gone to arbitration. The process of that is, we had conciliation. The parties couldn't agree, so we've now gone to arbitration submissions, and they'll be looking to be heard, I believe, in early November, and then a decision after that. So keep tuned for that, for those people that are looking after that sort of stuff. Obviously, we've had our issues in regards to the ASCL requirements and problems with promotional, promotion to QF. And obviously, we're starting to identify a couple of those now, which we will get onto. But the promotion to QF hopefully should be sorted. So that was a very good win that union advocated for members, and the department agreed that they should be getting paid as a QF and they shouldn't have to wait possibly up to a year. So if you're in that boat, make sure you check your pay slips. You should be at the higher rate by now, and some of you should be even getting back pay, from my understanding, up to a few $1,000s. I suppose one of the big things that certainly has happened in the last month is our campaign around presumptive legislation. It's one of the reasons why I asked Greg Marcellus to join us to talk a little bit about the legislation. But I suppose I'll quickly talk about where the campaign is up to at the moment, and I suppose a brief outline. I've been really pleased with the engagement that we've got out of members on this. The office and officials, and certainly myself, have been inundated with calls of support from current members and retired members. All the stories, the people that have unfortunately been affected by cancer, wanting to help. We obviously had the Daily Telegraph run a story on that, which I think was amazing, and a big shout out to ex-President Darren Sullivan, Steve Nunn, and Johnny Bromwich, and a couple of others. Gino De Bono made a star appearance on Channel 9 and Channel 7. But I suppose the nuts and bolts on that, and where are we at with it? I take you back a number of years now, where the FBEU started their work on this. We were one of the unions that made a submission into the federal Senate case that looked at this, and we got the amount of cancers expanded from 6 or 8 to 14. We've been looking around the country now for a number of years about how legislation works in different places. Certainly when this government came in, the Liberal government in 2012, we approached them, and as you can imagine, they weren't too keen on providing firefighters with that legislation. At the time, if you remember, 2012, they were cutting, the rest of this state's workers' compensation. Now, we were lucky to survive that, and maybe not that lucky, but certainly, we were very organised, and we certainly had a pretty good win there. But since then, I think, as legislation has got around in different parts of the country, we've seen that we can go and get this, and we should have this, and that's taken this to this next step. So over a year ago, when I became secretary, I approached the minister at the time, and he wasn't very interested at all. It was Troy Grant. We asked him for his support. He gave us his personal support, but not the government's. I then asked for meetings with other ministers. Unfortunately, I didn't get those. So we went to the next protocol, and that was the Labor opposition. Now, to be honest, they were very welcoming. They wanted to protect their firefighters. And we've been working on that legislation to and fro with the Labor opposition. and the RFSA. This obviously is going to protect all firefighters in this state, not just us and the RFS, but rail, state forestry to an extent, national parks and wildfire fighters. So where we got to a couple of months ago was, the Labor opposition finalising that bill and then getting ready to put it into Parliament. We did some media on that, and the moment that we were going to have that read into Parliament a couple of weeks ago, the government came out and to be honest, they hadn't seen the legislation as yet. They decided to come out and say they're not going to support this legislation. Now, they hadn't read it. They'd only seen what was, I think, in a couple of media releases from Labor, but they were out there to say no to it. And at the same time, they also came out and said that they'd been in consultation with the union and other stakeholders on their legislation, which they have yet to have drafted. Now, that didn't occur. Like I said, we haven't had any consultation with the government as yet in regards to what their bill may or may not look like. But I suppose we'll cut across to possibly Greg on this. He'll give a brief overview on what the legislation that Labor's putting up, and possibly ask any questions if do come through. Greg.
Yeah, well, I've got to start by saying that the union has done a great job with the bill that Labor put up, because this legislation has been brought in some other jurisdictions, not all of them in Australia, but this one really is. I think it does the best. It does the best to protect firefighters' rights. It goes further than a lot of the other acts that have been passed. But essentially, I guess what it comes down to, people need to know what it does, and I think people know that it's a presumptive act that deals with cancer. But basically, the long and short of it is that in a regular workers' compensation case, which is the law now, if people contract cancers through their work, and including firefighters at the moment, they can claim at the moment, but they face an uphill battle in succeeding in those claims, because in any workers' compensation case, it's the worker that's got the burden of proof. The worker has to prove on the balance of probabilities the link between work and the injury.
And that's quite an extensive process to try and prove that, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because you're starting off from, you've got to prove to the 50-50 is not good enough. You've got to prove on the balance probabilities, 51%. What you say, that the link between the work and the injury is made, and that's a hard process because it requires you to get expert evidence. And a lot of the problems you face in cancer cases, in particular, is that there is a lot of literature out there linking firefighting with cancer, but doctors, GPs aren't aware of it. So we find a lot of times people get diagnosed and then their GP is like, oh, no, nothing to do with work. What are you talking about? So we've got to go through this process of educating doctors, getting them to write certificates, and then the insurers taking issue with it. So there's a lot of hurdles in the way of it at the moment. But this legislation changes that. It shifts the burden. So instead of a worker having to prove that cancer is related to work, there's a presumption in certain cancers that if you contracted this disease within a certain period and you've been working as a firefighter for a certain period, well, then there's a presumption. So it reverses, shifts the onus back onto the employer to disprove. And that makes a big difference in a case. And apart from the obvious difference that you don't have to meet this burden, it also helps when there's presumptive legislation. Doctors understand, you say, well, the law is that there's a presumption in favour of it, so they're much more likely to say, okay, yeah, I know about this, it's linked.
So an educating legislation as well
as
exactly. Protection legislation.
Exactly.
Good.
So that's basically the purpose of it. And this particular bill, I don't want to get bogged down in it, but part of the reason why it's better is because of the definitions of how you qualify to get the benefit of this presumption. And a lot of the acts get bogged down in how many fires did you attend, and it becomes then you still have an argument with the employer, but it comes bogged down on another issue rather than what the doctors are saying. It's about, well, how many fires did you go to and what were you inhaling and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's our understanding that the other states are actually now looking at changing their legislation because it's actually way too hard to administer.
Exactly, yeah, because you're just creating new arguments to have. And I think that this bill that we put up sort of gets around that by saying, well, no, if you've been employed by a firefighter or even it covers volunteers as well, and firefighting makes up a substantial part of the work, then you get the benefit of the presumption, and it's a fair it's only a presumption. So the employers can. If they've got enough evidence, they can try and persuade, they can try and overturn it, but it's going to be much harder for them. It's fair on both sides, I think, because it really does sort of it shines a light on the connection that the science is proving that there's a connection between, and we're seeing more and more of it, unfortunately. Yeah. And it's a real problem that needs to be addressed. So
the government have come out, and the only thing that we do know about their bill is they've come out and said it won't be retrospective. So, and it's funny, they've said it's retrospective, but only back until the day that they made the media release. They were concerned about Labor's bill, and please, if you could speak to this about the 10-year cap on a claim.
Yeah, I mean that's spin doctoring taken to the extreme. They're trying to say, oh, well, we're going to have a better act because we're not going to have this 10-year qualifying period. But I can guarantee you this. I mean, if they bring out their proposal will not be as good as this bill. I can absolutely guarantee it, because this bill is retrospective in that, and why shouldn't it be? I mean, they're saying, well, if you were diagnosed with a cancer before the date of their press release, then you're not covered. But if you get diagnosed with a cancer afterwards, so if you've got a good doctor who picks up your cancer early, well, you've bad luck for you. If your doctor's a bit slow on the uptake and you get diagnosed later, well, you do get the benefit. It just doesn't make any sense. The reality is that people who are working now have been exposed for a long period of time, and why should they be excluded? The people who have been diagnosed now, what makes them any different? So, I mean, the government has saved a lot of money with the changes they made in 2012.
Absolutely.
It's been swimming in money because of it. I mean, you touched on this earlier, and it's a bit off topic, but it was a really big win that we got around when in 2012 they changed the workers' compensation scheme from a long-term safety net scheme to a short-term. So most people now get cut off after 2.5 years, or 5 years in serious cases, and if they get benefits after 5 years, it's got to be very serious. But firefighters have kept the long-term safety net. They're covered for all of their working life and medicals for life.
Yep.
So you can see, so when they come back to you and say, well, we're going to give you a different bill, you can bet your bottom dollar it's not going to be good.
So I suppose what were Labor trying to do, or can you explain, I suppose, this 10-year limit on because I think there's a bit of confusion around what this 10-year limit does, isn't it?
Well, it's the qualifying period. It's the period that if you contract it, if you're diagnosed with a cancer after you stop serving. So if you're diagnosed, and the bill which is on the science, this is a generous limit that Labor's put in there, is that if you're diagnosed within 10 years of finishing your firefighting duties, well, then you're covered under the legislation. So now they're trying to say, oh, well, we're not going to do that. But there has to be some limit, because, obviously people who are 92 and worked as a firefighter 40, 50 years ago, they might get cancer for another reason. But you can bet your bottom dollar they're going to put a different limit in. It'll be an age limit, it'll be a worse limit than the 10-year quality. 10 years generous.
So I suppose an example, and I've had a lot of questions about this, and I'll try and put this simply. Let's say I was a firefighter who retired 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and I retired due to cancer, but it was diagnosed during my serving time. Am I covered under the legislation?
No, well, under this legislation you would be, definitely. Under the government's legislation, which we haven't seen, but one thing we know is that person's not covered.
Yes.
The only thing we know is that person's not covered.
But under Labor there is, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so to those people out there who have contacted me on that, and I'll be upfront with you, I may have led one of you astray. If you have been diagnosed whilst serving to the point 10 years past your retirement, you're covered under Labor's legislation, and unfortunately not under the Liberal legislation. Is there any other things? I mean, what sort of benefits are you going to get out of this? Are you going to get a bag of cash and a whole bunch of stuff like this out of Greg? Or I mean, what are we getting here? I mean, I was on the radio and someone asked me, oh, you'll get heaps, lots of payouts on this.
No, it's not a lottery. I mean, it's a fair piece of legislation, which is why it has been uncontroversially enacted in a lot of other jurisdictions. It really recognises the fact that the science establishes this link, and firefighters are entitled to the presumption rather than having to be put to the cost and stress of having to go through a hearing process where everything's on them to prove that the causal link which has been recognised in the science. So it doesn't create any additional benefits, but it just makes it much easier for firefighters to get what they deserve, and that is recognition of the link between firefighting and cancer. And it's a very important recognition. Yep. And it will flow into other areas, obviously, if there's all this awareness about it. I mean, it can only help in terms of occupational health and safety measures in the future. Yeah.
Just touching on Marcellus & Co, and look, this is a bit of a shameless plug in one sense. Greg Marcellus is actually the son of Steve Marcellus, who was the founding member of Marcellus & Co, who started working for us, and we've been trying to track this down back in 1971
we think,
one or two.
I wasn't there. If you think I was there.
And has been with us ever since. And this is a bit of a plug, and I will push Marcellus & Co. They help hundreds and hundreds of our members, and they get really, really good results for them. And as Greg pointed out, you really need to find a workers' comp lawyer nowadays that looks after our workers' comp system, because we're actually now different to others workers' comp lawyers. So look, I'm not going to force you into anything, but please give Marcellus & Co a call if you get hurt in any way. One of the other questions that I was going to ask you, Greg, was right now someone's going through cancer or someone's contracted cancer, and it's they believe it's part of from their work. What can they do now? What process do they go through?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, because there's a bit of misunderstanding. I think that people think that the legislation is what's going to entitle them to compensation. It's not the case. Under the current scheme, as I said before, you are still entitled to claim. It's it's slightly more difficult because that burden of proof lies with the worker, but that's not insurmountable by any means. We've had a lot of success. I don't think we've actually run one and lost one on the cancer connection. And sometimes even the insurers accept liability, especially when treating doctors are well informed. But one thing is, it is important, I think, and it's a good reason to call us early, is because we can give you the literature to take to your doctor if your doctor is expressing some, we never heard of this, don't know. So if they're well informed and they give you the certificate early on, the work cover certificate, it makes it an easier process rather than the doctor saying, well, I'm not sure, and then you're trying to convince insurers later down the track. So if you have been diagnosed and you think there is a connection, the claim should be put in. There's no reason not to put it in now. Every reason to do it. Yep. We can make an assessment of the case and about bringing it now, or waiting for the presumptive legislation to get through, depending on the circumstances. But I think it's important to at least lodge the claim at this stage. That's the other good thing about the union's bill, is that not only is it retrospective, but it even covers a situation where the worker lost the case on the last occasion. They're entitled to make have another go at it with the presumption, because things have changed.
And look, I suppose another couple of key points that I like about it, and we do have members that sit in both fire services at the moment. Obviously, fire rescue, and they're previously RFS, and fire rescue have gone into the RFS. Periods of service roll on and are joined, aren't they? Correct, so yes. Those qualifying periods go across both services, which I think is important. Look, I suppose that was really good info from Greg. I suppose, where's the campaign up to now? I've shot off a letter to the Premier. I've yet to hear from her, asking for an urgent meeting to talk about why they're not backing in or at least amending Labor's legislation if they don't like it. I think that's absolutely key here. If there's one or two things that they think they can make better, you know, to be honest, the FBEU is absolutely all ears. And we'll sit down with them and talk to them about it. But unfortunately, that offer hasn't been made as yet. The best that we've got is the minister out of the blue wants to have a catch up this Thursday. Well, he wanted to have a catch up with the president, but I have been invited along now, so hopefully he still likes me, which I'm not sure if he did, but see how we'll find out on Thursday. Like I was saying at the start of this, the campaign of this worked out really, really well. We got really, really good engagement out of you guys. You jumped on the Facebook, you signed that petition. Over 2,000, I think, petitions signed and have gone to MPs. And that petition, if you weren't aware, not only went to your local MP, also went to all the upper house MLCs. I was getting calls from those guys saying, can you stop? Like our inbox is now full. And that really, really put, you know, a whole bunch of pressure on the government. You know, and I think, you know, unfairly, I think they've made a poor mistake. They really should have come out and had a look at this legislation first, and they should have worked with the Labor Party and the Greens and whoever else. I think there should be a bipartisan approach, as it's been in every other state, to work on this. So, campaign part one of the campaign's done, certainly done well. Now what we're asking for is for MPs to sign a pledge to support the legislation. And at this point, there's only one legislation, it's Labor's, so we're asking them to support that. I've asked members to get in touch with me or your state committee official if you want to help out and go and meet your MP and get them to sign this. We'll line that up for you, so contact the office, or, like I said, or contact your state committee official. Did you want to add anything to that, Mick?
That's probably the main points, but the main thing that everybody can do throughout all of this, and with anything, as Greg's pointed out, is contact the union early. We can put you in touch with Greg or Marcellus, and they can follow up with anything they need. It's also very important to, as Leighton said, be ready to help us out on this. This is still an active campaign. Like, we've had a major success here in that both parties are now on board with something to do with presumptive, but until we get it over the line, we're going to need everybody to keep doing what they've been doing. Short of that too, just quickly, I've been taking a lot of phone calls from members who have rang up purely to discuss their cancer. And I've got to say, as harrowing as that is, it's been an absolute amazing experience to see how strong those members are, and former members, and the fact that some of these people are never going to be entitled to anything through this system, but they are there just to help us. You know, they've kept that union fibre about them, and they're more than happy to come and help us out, run media, campaign however we need to help all of us out in the future. So thank you very much to those people, and keep calling us with those details too, please.
Look, at a big hello to all the people that are logging in. Some of the regular faces there. Hello, Brinky. I was just looking at my phone over here. Out of Bathurst, we've got 20 odd retained and permanent members watching. So hello, Bathurst out there. I'll just go through some of these quick questions just on this. Yes, from Comrade, ex-President Sullivan. Greg's dad is actually an associate member, was made an associate member in, I'm testing it, 2013, 14 from memory. Can't remember that.
Go check the board.
Yes, we'll have to go and check the board on that one. Sammy Wassell's out there. Hello, Sam. Who else have we got in there? Say hello and ask your questions. Good question from Darren Sullivan. What do we need to do now going forward? Get active, keep talking to your MPs, keep putting pressure on them. Now, they want this issue to go away, and it's not. Now, it's certainly not, I'm not going to be letting it go away. The State Committee are taking a very firm position on this. We'll be, if the government keeps stalling on this, we will make it an election issue and we will come for them. It's as simple as that. We're not going to keep letting firefighters go through this horrible time in their life and not be supported. Now, you know, if you think, you know, firefighters are not going to use everything at their disposal to get what they rightfully deserve, think again, Liberal National Government. Mick, yes?
Yeah. So while we've got Greg here and Marcellus with us, this is some of the other things that they can do. So outside of presumptive as well, as members of the union, there's a few things you guys are entitled to. Now we have basically a will that can be made. If you're ever in need of making a will, you can contact Marcellus and they can do a free will. I think there's some limits around how complex that gets, but contact them. And the other thing we do have is that you can contact them as well for a free consultation on any legal issue. So an initial consultation, you get some advice as well. So they're extra services you gain as well. I don't know if Greg wants to add anything to that or explain.
The only other thing, we do cut price conveyancing for union members as well, if this buying selling a house.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's, we've had a very long association with the union, almost 50 years. And our focus is on workers' comp and personal injury cases and motor accidents and so on. But we're very proud of our association with the union, and we're pleased to have been working with them for so many years and to have recovered so much money for members.
Yeah. Oh, look, and just seems like a bit of a plug from the Celsico, but one of the reasons why we like these guys is they take care of the fireys. And they spread out across lots of parts of, obviously, the Metro, Newcastle, Wollongong, Central Coast, and look, they will come to you if you need to. So, really, really good service for a long time with Marcellus & Co. There you go, good question. Well, here we go. I'm not sure if I can answer this. From Comrade Broadhurst,
Nice.
ex-State Committee official. Will this legislation have any effects on our D&D scheme? Oh, wow. Look, I haven't thought about it, Travis, but all the effects. But look, this shouldn't affect D&D. If people have got cancer and they're getting medically retired, they would naturally, access D&D if they're part of that fund. So it won't replace D&D in any way. It's just like D&D won't replace the access to workers' comp, which is really what you're getting under the legislation. So hopefully that answers that question. Doesn't appear to be too many more questions on that, and if there it is, please throw them through and I'll answer them. I'll go on to a couple of other things that we've got going on. State Committee met this afternoon via teleconference and sorted out what we'll be talking about at the AGM next Wednesday in Sydney. Dates to be confirmed everywhere else. But next Wednesday at Trades Hall at 10 o'clock will be our AGM. And one of the discussion pieces, and I won't go into the full motion, but one of the discussion pieces will be looking at our MFR motion, which has been on the books 2012, I think, at first, and then I think it was slightly amended in 2015, and we're looking at having a look at that again. So look, check the website, check your email, and check SITREP, and for what the State Committee is proposing with that. I think it's in line with what we said we would do when we went to the last election. Yeah. We would look at this, we would try and tighten up what's going on. And I think we came up with a really good position for members to get out there and have a look at and tell us what they think. So get to a meeting. Meetings will be held, obviously, Sydney. The executive is then going out to Dubbo, or the executive plus other officials will be going out to Dubbo. The state championships are on. We'll be holding a meeting out there. There'll certainly be meetings in Newcastle, Central Coast, Wollongong, and then Huntingwood. Plus all the others, obviously regional and retained, as they normally do it. So keep an eye on, eye out for that. Yep. Hopefully that will go out with SITREP tomorrow. And there will probably be a bit of an update around air sets and so forth like that. So just on my list, as you'll see this, we're obviously doing Facebook Lives. Part of that came out of obviously what we started to do, or what I started to do through the election, and see how that worked. Obviously, it was really, really taken up, and I think members, really, really liked it. I'm not getting too many people on here that are telling me that they don't want to be watching this, which is good. But part of that also, I got a communications. I'll be to do a communications review of how we do internal and external. Internal and external review of our communications, how we talk to members, where they're at, and so forth. So Facebook Lives is a part of that. And we'll be rolling, I suppose, more things out into the future as we start slotting that into our strategy. One part of that is, and this has been absolutely been worked on probably a little bit too long, but is a new website. My understanding is Mick's been working on that over the last few months with Conrad Sullivan.
Very long process.
And I think we finally got there, and it should have gone live today. I think we're still looking at parts of the forum and how that goes going forward. But yeah, so jump on. We should now have a mobile-friendly website. And obviously a bit of a new look, some new changes, and I think some
yeah, get on board, have a look, and give us your feedback by all means. So yeah, sorry.
So, we've got a good question here from...
the earpieces are moving.
Yes, our earpieces. Got a good question here from Brett Farmer. Absolutely. Look, this is exactly what we want you to do for our campaign for cancer. Get out there, write to your local member, ask for a meeting. What we really need out of you guys and girls is to engage with your MP. Now, and if you want to do that, call us. We'll give you all the information. We'll send an official along with you if you wish. This is hearts and minds stuff. We need to absolutely get in there and tell them, we want this. This is what you need to do for not just us, but for our families. This is how it affects, not just me, but the person next to me on a truck. Unfortunately, what we do is we see this way too many times. We're having members not being supported, and we need to absolutely make sure that MPs know that. So look, get in touch with your MP, get in touch with the office, and we'll sort you out with that.
Or your local SCOM rep.
Yeah. Or your local SCOM rep, absolutely.
Yeah, so just to finish up on that point, that there is nothing that's going to win this campaign better than when you guys actually get out there and we get face to face. When we're talking to them, we're having those conversations, they can see how serious we are, they can see that this issue needs to be sorted, and it needs to be sorted now. They love trying to bury this stuff. They don't necessarily care either way, sadly, but what they need to see is that we're not going away and they need to fix it for us. So keep up the good work and let us know, and we'll come along and help.
Look, another bit of legislation that's hit Parliament recently and it hasn't seen too much coverage. We'll be reporting on that in SITREP hopefully tomorrow, is the Emergency Services Amendment Acts. Look, I won't comment too much on here, but to be honest, there's been an absolute ton of work gone into that, and I suppose where the union thinks the government is taking that legislation and the three different services that it affects, and that is us, the SES and the RFS. If you haven't seen it, we have reported on in SITREP. Jump on the link. We've been talking to the crossbenchers and the opposition, and obviously the government didn't want to talk to us about that because we have some real big concerns in that legislation and what it does to, for one, an absolute demark of what our job is and then who does our job. So we've been doing a lot of work, certainly in Parliament, myself and Nick, speaking to MPs, trying to get an understanding of what the government's going to, because obviously they first came out and said that there's nothing to see here, but as you dug deeper into that legislation, we certainly see some really big structural changes that we don't necessarily like. So I'll keep an eye on SITREP tomorrow. We'll report on that more, and hopefully we'll, that's in Parliament right now and may even be voted on tonight. So hopefully some of the work we've done, we'll see some good results. But yeah, more to report on that. Did you want to talk about the AGM or the AGM at all?
Only to reinforce what's been said. There's that motion coming, so watch for SITREP hopefully tomorrow to have that clarified. Check when the meetings are on, and get informed. Have a look, have a read. Contact your SCOM representatives if you need to discuss it. And it should be a very good debate, and I look forward to it. The other thing we are going to be doing, as Leighton pointed out, I want to touch on, is we're heading up to the Firefighter Championships at Dubbo. So it's going to be a unique experience for us. It's the first time we've gone out there as a union, and we look forward to seeing a lot of our retained comrades out that way. And it should be a good chance to get an extra meeting in out there, and that should be great news for everybody as well.
So there's a good question here from Genevieve Delves. Sorry, it's in very, very small writing on Mick's small iPad here. Will the union promote and encourage submissions by members? It's up on the screen, wonderful. Thank you, little elves out the back. Into mental health conditions. Now, we made a submission onto that. And this is the federal inquiry that you're talking about, I imagine, Genevieve. We've made 2 submissions so far. So we made one into the bullying and harassment and mental health and moving the RFS centre out to Dubbo or a regional area, women's uniforms and mental health. There was one other. Yeah. We made a submission into that. If you have a look at that from last year, we gave evidence and that report was only handed down roughly 6 weeks ago. A lot of our submissions were taken and put forward by the committee. Now the government, unlike the Kilty report, which was put out and adopted instantly in one day, they've had that review and those recommendations from that committee now for 6 weeks or so, and we've heard nothing, because generally what that talks about is more support for firefighters, more mental health for firefighters, better processes through disciplinary processes. So I don't think we're going to probably hear anything from the government too soon on that. But we did make a submission into the federal inquiry into this. I'm not sure where that's up to at the moment. Those inquiries do take a number of months. But yeah, absolutely, we've been keeping an eye on that as well.
And just quickly on that, if anyone comes across inquiries that are coming up and you think it is a space that our union should be playing, by all means contact us, let us know, and by all means submit your own submissions to us as well, so we can take those in and consider those when we do them.
Now we've got another good question here from Ian Greenwood, and hello, I did have a chat to you earlier the other day about this. And are we supporting more firefighters in different areas? Look, absolutely. We're always about getting more jobs everywhere. I haven't got the full details of that yet, as we discussed on the phone yesterday. But look, we've been talking about permanence to support the retained there in Ballam for a number of years now. We've been working locally. We've had local reps from up there. Big shout out to Chris Perrin, who's done some work up there. Big shout out to Tim Anderson, who's also been out there. But I flew up there over 18 months ago to speak to council. I've been speaking to the area manager and the zone management team about this. I've been speaking to the National Party, the Labor Party. I've yet to speak to the Greens, but hopefully we'll get to that at some stage. And again, we are looking at everywhere that we can promote not just permanent jobs, but obviously retained jobs. That job out there at Lennox sounds like, there's I think from what you were saying, there's about 7,000 houses there and another 500 houses development. These are the sorts of things that maybe we need to go back and start working out where we go from, the RFS brigade across to a retained brigade, just like we do with a retained, obviously, and then permanents moving in to support them. We need to start working out how we're going to get these systems, and government should be looking at this, about how we progress, from one service into another and into coverage, and that's something that we'll be looking at next year. So absolutely, we are looking at that, and thanks for the phone call yesterday. Billy Max, hello Billy Mac, how are you? Would you like me to be the representative for what the RFS should do? I think the answer to that, Billy, is no. I think your view on that is well heard, comrade. And I say comrade.
We'll take it under advisement.
And we'll take that under advisement. But thank you for your commentary. Look, any other questions out there? Sorry, I'm just scrolling through as we go there now. One here from Brinky. Hi, Log and Mick. Mike Boffin's got that one about Z relievers. Here we go. Any update from last year in regards to Z relievers? No, nothing as yet. We expect that Z relievers should be put on one platoon, and unless we find out otherwise, I know Comrade Anderson recently sent in an email from out your way, so we'll have a look at that. And but no other update at this stage. Look, unfortunately, I think the department just kept dragging their feet on this, and unfortunately for them, they should have come to the party a little bit better. But no update, and we'll keep you guys out there in the country know if there is another update. So looking at Billy, we can't put emojis up on the screen comment because of the coding, but I think everyone in Facebook Live land, may see that for you. Here we go, Sam. Hello, Sammy. What's happening with the LF course? Look, Mick might be able to briefly touch on that. My understanding with the LF course is that the union, look, from when we first negotiated the LF course, we wanted extra days added. The department assured us that it would be fine. I think on the TRC, our reps have done a pretty good job of adding another 3 days.
Where we're at with that, hopefully there'll be an 8-day trial moving ahead, which will allow some more time on that course, which should cover both the training, but also a second round of assessments, we believe, at this stage. It's all still negotiable at the moment, so but heading in a very good direction on that front. The history of it was that the union, when this concept was coming through, had a look at all the days of training that were required through the old SOPP, and that was 10 days, and that was our position. And we got what we got, so hopefully now we're heading back towards where we thought it should be, and it should make it a lot better for everybody.
So I've got a cracking question here from Trevor Ross. Trevor's coming out to Dubbo with us. Look, I need that question answered. So Countryside Branch, if you can get onto that as soon as you can. We'll be heading out straight after the Trades Hall AGM. So from 12 to, how long does it take to get to Dubbo? If someone can answer that, I think it's about 5 or 6 hours. So don't eat all the vanilla slices in the morning for us on our way out.
Yeah, along the path.
Hello, Dave Smith. How's your holidays? And happy, what birthday is it? 50th now? What is happening with the SCBA? Well, the SCBA, as per the operational bulletin, all MSA sets are now to be taken off appliances. Look, there'll be more to this in SITREP, but certainly the union has kept an absolute eagle eye on this. And developments last week where the union came to some knowledge that that there was a fault that didn't match the mitigating risk factors that the union was happy with the only wear for 10 minutes. We found out there was another issue with this. We certainly spoke to the department about that, and they agreed with us, and they pulled those sets. Simple as that. Now, moving forward, that is an issue for fire rescue to sort out. Obviously, the union's not in a commercial arrangement, and we'll all go over to the other side. One thing that is key for the union is the safety of its members, and to have good gear that we're comfortable wearing, and that we, I think that we feel that we trust. Simple as that. So we'll keep waiting, getting the updates from fire rescue. As far as I know, they are sourcing more draggers and possibly any other sets that haven't found to be had faults in them at the moment, and hopefully they'll be putting those on trucks and up the capability, the slight capability loss that we had when we had to take those MSAs off sets. But look, I have heard a report recently, and it's been fixed now, that there was a station that didn't take those sets off. There is no question here. Those sets need to come off. They unfortunately at this point they cannot be trusted. So let's be quite clear about that. There's no one playing games here. Those sets at the moment aren't safe, and they should not go back on a truck or be worn until we can prove that they are. Mick?
We've got a vanilla slice update coming through. As soon as I can find it.
Oh, Billy Mac reckons the Kincumber South has the best. And he'll deliver.
That's okay. There we go. There's Brinkies here. It's going to be a vanilla slice off.
Yes.
All future AGMs will be determined by location of vanilla slices.
Oh, look, a good question here from Andy Haas. Look, one of the things that I suppose we identified through the MSA issue is that, I suppose, without in-house servicing, without that overview, without that knowing the trend of what's happening with our sets and with our gear, we don't have a total view of what's happening in our job. And, we are a little bit specific in our job. We need to understand what's going on and where it, and what's, how to fix it, and whether it needs to be fixed. In-house servicing, when it was dropped, and it was done under this government, done for outsourcing and saving money reasons, has failed. I mean, let's be quite clear about that. You know, we need all our gear back in fire rescue hands, getting serviced by firefighters who identify these problems and they fix them, and they fix them quickly, because they know the moment that we need this gear and we need it to work, and the moment we lose faith in it, well then, you know, a whole bunch of other problems occur. So, you know, if anything good can come out of this, is that we get good sets that we can trust and we service them ourselves. Brad Turner's got one here on a comms update or latest. Look, Brad, nothing recently. I've met with the Commissioner. We're in this consultation period about, you know, what's, I suppose, happening with the review that's happening into comms. As soon as I get some information, I'll get back out to you. I invited RFSA President Ken Middleton to come and see our comms centre and to see, like, you know, there's no smoke and mirrors going on in comms. There's, you know, here the call comes in and here the call comes out, and if there's a delay in time, well then possibly because we've got two different types of systems that are being run, and that the best way to do that was just to have one system, or for firefighters just to start turning out RFS appliances. Now that's not particularly controversial. That is actually the smartest thing we could do. We would have the best service from our comms operators, who are some of the best in the world, right? Using a system that turns out trucks quicker to help the community. That's how simple it is. Now I think Ken took that, and I've invited Ken to bring the RFSA directors down, their committee, like their state committee, to come and have a look and to tell us why our comms should lose 100 jobs. Because I'm pretty sure they're not going to be able to come up with that answer. So that's the only update I've got on that. Do we have any other questions in here? If not, look, I'll take a few more, but we are getting to that point of time where we will wrap this up. Okay, there's nothing in there, so I'll wrap up with this one last thing. Each Facebook Live I do between now and March, I'll talk about the state election and why it's important. It's important because what we'll be doing is voting for our boss. We'll be voting for the person that gives us our budget. We'll be the person that decides what trucks we get, what air sets we get, whether we have comms jobs, you know, how good our state training facility is, whether we own it, how much money that we get. Now, we need to start having a think about, who do we want as a boss? Who are the people that have tried to look after us? Who are the people that will do the best thing by firefighters, and as an extension, the community? So keep an eye on these Facebook Lives, keep an eye on SITREP, because we'll be bringing, you know, different campaigns out to try and work out which party is going to be the party that looks after us. And that's the party all firefighters should be supporting. So I suppose anything to add from you, Mick?
No, just thanks very much for everybody for watching, and we hope these are quite a productive process for you. I don't want to stitch Leighton up because he'll be doing the next one. I don't know whether I will, but also any concepts in the sense, discussions around this. Like tonight we've had Marcellus be able to come here and talk about what they do for us and a little bit of info on presumptive legislation. Any other ideas or concepts on anything you might want a bit more in-depth information on? One that quickly comes to my mind is probably the D&D. It's the one I get the most complicated technical questions about, and it normally takes me a good while to go away and find an answer. So concepts like that, let us know as well. Email them in or contact your local SCOM rep again with ideas, and we can look at those as well.
Yeah, look, and I think some of this was a very structured Facebook Live. We obviously wanted to get a whole bunch of information out to you guys. But the ones where there's probably more of an update, I'll probably put out a questionnaire and say, look, send us any questions. We'll take the top 5 and try and answer those. As long as obviously chatting to, you know, all these guys on there and girls on there as well. Greg, did you have anything else to add? And by the way, very much thank you very much for coming along and giving us your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
And look, thank you very much for tuning in once again. Look, share this on your Facebook. I think we're going to throw it up as a video at some stage. Thanks, Undies. And we will see you at the AGM.
Yeah.
Bye.
Cheers.